Hi, I'm Pam, and I would like to welcome you to the Live Authentically show. My team and I help other people step into their authentic realities via a number of different modalities. This show is obviously one of them. We also have a Facebook group of like minded people committed to spiritual growth and transformation, and you can find us at liveauthentically.today/FB. Also, check out a book that I released, my debut book that I released last year. It's called SOAR, SOAR. It's on Amazon, and it is an experiential spiritual journey of how I navigated a transformative event in my life. So check that out and learn how you can learn to navigate life using universal truths and get to a place of soaring. That is something I absolutely believe everyone can get to, regardless of your situation. So check that out. On my show today, I am super excited to have with me Brianna Greenspan. Hey, Brianna.
Hi, Pam.
How are you? Oh,
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here.
I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for taking time to be here and share your story. I know you have a really powerful one that's going to touch a lot of lives. I'm super excited to have you here and have you on this, in this platform to share your message and disseminate your healing energy and your love and light throughout the world. So thank you so much. Before we get into you and your powerful story, I would love to ask you the same question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, how do you live authentically every day?
It's such a powerful and beautiful question.
Thank
And,
you.
how do I live authentically every day? Well, I lean into who I really am and I ask myself powerful questions like, who do I want to show up as each and every day? And although the attributes that I need to bring forth to the different experiences that I'm having might shift, there are certain things like authenticity that remains a consistent um, that remain consistent in my life. And so one of the ways that I show up as my most authentic self is I don't alter or filter anything. And so what I mean by that is I don't wear any makeup, I don't use any like Instagram filters or any of the things like a Zoom background or any of the things that might alter my authentic self exactly as I am. And so if I have a blemish or if I have something that might be, like a hair out of place or a thing, it's just who I am. And that's okay. And I told myself that I am um, able to contribute in a much more meaningful way if I show up as my authentic self. And my authentic self doesn't need to be edited in any way, especially for the external. And so for many years, I haven't worn any makeup. I don't do a lot of the things that when I was a child, um, I lived very inauthentically and definitely was looking for external confirmation and validation because I wasn't able to give myself that internal confirmation and validation. And so part of living authentically is really being able to give myself that internal validation and confirmation of who I am and like what I'm meant to show up as, who I'm meant to show up as each and every day.
I love that. That's really beautiful. I imagine it must feel so freeing now to live in this authentic space, does it?
It's really interesting. And my fiance has mentioned like I'm the first girl that he's ever dated that doesn't, spend an hour putting on makeup and doing her hair and all of these things. And when he sees people that's what they choose to do, he recognizes that um, everybody makes their own choices that feel good to them. And he's said to me, like, I'm so grateful that you feel comfortable in your own skin to be somebody who's accepting of yourself exactly as you are and knowing that that's beautiful just exactly as you are, despite so many external sources saying like, when are you going to get this thing, whatever that thing is, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so
Yeah.
I definitely I feel very empowered and um proud of who I am in my space now versus where I came from in this space of confusion for so many years as a child.
And I think that it's so important, as we move forward, as, social media becomes obviously more prevalent, a bigger part of our lives, like you said, with the filters and just this quest for perfectionism, I think it's going to be more and more important that we intentionally anchor on authenticity and hold on to that purest part of ourselves. So, what are some things that you think people can do? Particularly, I see it. I have teens. I see that younger generation really striving to kind of keep up with what everybody else is doing, and they're comparing their life with everyone else's highlight reel, and wondering, why am I not going on vacation every weekend or whatever, and or why does everybody else on Instagram is beautiful and I'm not, kind of thing. So, what are some things, some ideas that you have for people to intentionally hold on to their authenticity as we move forward, particularly in an era that is so steeped in technology?
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful question. We are in you're absolutely right. We are in a society of comparisonitis. And you touched on it so beautifully. We are comparing who we are and what we recognize about ourselves internally to someone else's highlight reel, to the best parts of themselves that they're only showing to the world versus what's actually happening. And so one of the ways that I really stayed true to my authenticity is by recognizing the language in my head, recognizing how powerful mindset is, recognizing the power of affirmations, recognizing the importance of affirming my natural beauty, of affirming my superpowers, my own strengths, affirming who I am and what I'm capable of in a way that calls me forth to not only be my best self, but invites in comparisonitis in a beautiful way. Because when somebody wants to play the comparison game, okay, fine, play the comparison game. But playing the comparison game with ourselves, comparing ourselves to who we were last week, last month, and last year in comparison to who we might be next week, next month, and next year based on our own choices. That's where the real magic is. When we compare ourselves to anything in the external, it actually harms us from being our most authentic selves. And so I often say to people, like, if you really feel drawn to the comparison game, okay, but be it with yourself. Who were you 5 years ago and compared to now? And who will you be in 5 years based on recognizing how far you've already come and how far you want to go?
Yeah, I love that. That is really just so beautiful. And that really is, you hit on it right there. That's the secret sauce, is really just putting on the blinders and not worrying about what everybody else is doing and not comparing your life with theirs, because, everybody goes through things at different times, and you don't have to look very far, I've found, to find someone who's smarter than you are, prettier than you are, all those things. And it's like, then it's just a recipe for feeling defeated every single day. So we let everybody else own their stuff and be on their own journey, and we put the blinders on, stay in our own lane. And like you said, just keep comparing ourselves to our prior points in evolution, constantly just keep looking ahead. Where am I today? Where do I want to be tomorrow? That growth-based mindset, growth lifestyle is just so exhilarating. And that's a well that never runs dry, right? That's, when we're living life from the soul, there's always something more to learn. There's always a new area to expand into. And I'm super excited that you live in this space, quite obviously and intentionally, every single day. I know that you have a really powerful story of your own healing. I know you do such beautiful work in the world as an advocate for chronic illnesses. And I know you have your own story of dealing with a diagnosis and navigating all of that, which you've then transmuted that pain into such beautiful love and light and healing for the world. So I would love to open it up to you now to share your story.
Oh, you're so beautiful. Thanks so much. You know, I, I'm glad that I'm going to talk about this, because what I just mentioned before about not wearing makeup and these filters really are the evolution of my healing journey. And I will say that when I was a kid, there were just so many complications. Like every moment, it was like, Mom, look at this. What is this? And there was just like I never stopped crying until I could talk. By the time I could talk, I was just talking about like ouchies and bobos. And my mom was like very confused, like, taking me to doctors all the time. Every doctor had a different opinion, a different label, a different medication, a different assistive device. And as a result, by the time I was 10, by the time I was 15, there were so many labels, so many medications, so many assistive devices and none of them made many or all the symptoms go away. And so there was just this multitude of complications, and it all came to a head when I lost the ability to walk. And this is like neck braces and back braces and surgeries and shots and medications and all kinds of nonsense. Mm-hmm. And none of those things actually made any of the symptoms go away. Yet each time another symptom came, I'd get knocked down and I'd stay down. And I'd just wait for the next symptom to come because there was just so many things that were happening all at once. Like I'd throw up and then I'd dislocate my rib and then I'd have an allergic reaction to the thing. It's just like, and then in 10 minutes, there's been like lots of different things transpiring. And so it all kind of came to a head when I lost the ability to walk when I was 19 after a failed surgery. And in that moment, I met a gentleman who radically transformed my life. And he recognized what was going on, what my strengths were, and what was possible. And he said, there's a lot of hard work to be done, but I'm happy to hold your hand on this healing journey to help you go from an illness narrative to a wellness narrative. Wow. And it was like the greatest blessing of all time. I went through this therapy program with him for 378 hours every day for like 9 hours a day, every day until I could walk. And the goal was for me to be able to walk up a flight of stairs with no assistive devices, with no medication, and without pain.
Wow.
And that was kind of like the moment that I learned that there was so much that I didn't know surrounding healing myself naturally, surrounding transformation, surrounding rebirth, surrounding so many things. And what I've learned in this last 12 years of being on a wellness journey is that there's no way for me to put on a shiny positive lens and will my symptoms to go away. I will always still have some challenges. Yet, because of the wisdom that I've amassed on a searching journey, finding healers, finding practitioners, finding modalities, finding rituals, finding habits that have radically transformed the way that symptoms come up and the way that I respond to them, I've been able to learn how to pick myself up much quicker. I've been able to learn just how resilient I am and just how important it is to replace limiting beliefs and labels and things that other people might have shared with us with our own limitless beliefs. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk right now. With my own limitless beliefs and with our own story. Because, when doctors would say to me, like, you're sick, you're dying, that was their opinion. Yet when I took that on as a little girl and said, like, I'm sick, that is now my opinion that I'm sharing with the world. And so when I mentioned mindset, it's so important for us to identify, like, what is the language that we're using every single day? What are we reinforcing in our mind? And is it even our own? Or is it someone else's that we've now adopted that's actually holding us back from our true potential, from our own radical transformation? And so I mentor and coach a lot of kids and teens with chronic and terminal illnesses because I know what it's like to be in a space where nobody understands what you're going through and nobody has any quality advice that can help change the situation. And so I've retired all assistive devices, all medications, and really like my handicap placard and like all of the things that reinforced this illness lifestyle. And instead I've replaced that with meditation and affirmations and visualization and physical therapy and, journaling and so many other practices that are really supportive. Biofeedback, neurofeedback, craniosacral therapy, so many different practices that for every symptom that arises, I now know of something that can help me move through it or eliminate that symptom for the future. And I will circle back to this makeup thing. I didn't just magically like decide, oh, I'm going to be so authentic. That was years and years and years of inner work that eventually I'm very sensitive. Part of the condition is that I'm just very sensitive, and so anything that is anything that triggers my body in a way that doesn't make me feel very good, if I break out in a rash or hives or I need an EpiPen or any of these allergic issues, I immediately start to notice like what's happening here. What did I do? What role did I play in whatever I'm experiencing? And so if I would put something on my face and then I'd break out in a rash, I'd say to myself, well, I think my body's telling me it doesn't like that. Okay, well, I probably shouldn't put that on again. And then it just kind of snowballed from there into really focusing on the evidence of what my body was telling me. And sometimes my body would say, oh, you probably shouldn't have that food. Let's replace that Coke for water. Let's replace this for that. And I just started to listen to what my body was saying so much more. And that helped me to live so much more authentically, because before, what I realized is that I was not a very good listener to my own body.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I'd love to hear you expound on that a little bit more, because I think in so many cases, we're just so accustomed to looking to professionals and regarding that what they say is gospel and that is the answer and that is the way and the only way. And, with all due respect to doctors and many other professionals who play such a huge part in healing. But, I have been my own advocate for various things in the past. I have been my own kid's advocate. My son, years ago when he was little, he kept having these super high fevers. Every 3 to 4 weeks, I started charting it. Every 3 to 4 weeks, he would spike this fever just like out of nowhere. He would start to get like this eczema on his skin. And I could tell it was a cycle that I was observing over months. And of course, I'd haul him to the doctor every time. And it was just regarded as a one-off, fluke, like, oh, a virus, just bad luck. And one time it was strep. I'm like, okay, that explains the one time, but how about these other 3 to 4, every 3 to 4 week episodes he's having? So they kept telling us to wait it out. He doesn't meet the criteria for a tonsillectomy. I'm like, you know what? And so I went on my own journey. I started Googling and I found that it's called periodic fever syndrome, which is like 1 in 50,000 kids get it. Like I had to dig to find it. It's very, very rare. And I hauled him to a specialist at a, really well-revered, children's hospital. First visit, I'm like, look, this is what I think it is. I literally went in with like, this is what I think the diagnosis is. They probably don't love like moms like me, but I'm like, look, this is what it is. When can we schedule the tonsillectomy? He's like, you're absolutely right. Had his tonsils out, boom, it was totally cured. So my point in sharing that story is, be your own advocate, listen to your intuition, listen to your body. No one knows your body better than you do. So I'd love to hear you expound on that a little bit more, because I think that's a really important point.
Rock on. I'm so proud of you. It's really difficult to be your own advocate, and it's really difficult to be an advocate for those that you love, especially when those that you respect are saying things that are different than the thing that your own intuition is saying. And so I'm so proud of you for listening to your own intuition and saying, no, my intuition is saying I'm supposed to search for something. This is not the answer. Whatever I'm hearing is not it. They're missing the mark. I need to now be my son's advocate. And a lot of times, we're not even aware of our own intuition. And we often give power to those in positions of power that command it, And that's great. A lot of them are very, very helpful in many circumstances, but not all circumstances. And that's where intuition can play a massive role. And it is in the quieting of our mind. It's in the moments where we, say, I'm going to take a moment to pause. I'm going to take a moment to breathe. I'm going to take a moment to evaluate what is happening and how am I meant to show up in this moment, that we're able to even get quiet enough to listen to our intuition, which says, go to Google, which says, call this person, which says, stay away from that or bring more of that into your life. Whatever it's saying it for our own benefit. And oftentimes we're just so used to listening to the external that we're not able to even hear our own intuitive guidance. And so I far too often hear stories of individuals suffering because they gave all of the power for their own healing to someone who wasn't aware of what was best for them. And so I really, really am so proud of you and grateful that your son was able to get the care that he needed, especially when that could have gone on for years. That could have gone on and it could have spiraled into something completely different. And it was because of your own leadership as a mom and as someone who listens to your intuition that your son's life and quality of life was completely and totally transformed.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I mean, it's amazing and not unique if we listen to our own intuition. And so it's beautiful that you brought this story up for anyone who's listening, because we all have this power. We all have our own intuition that's guiding us towards something, but most of us don't allow for that quietness, for that subtle tug that's happening to be recognized.
Right. Right. And what are some ways that you would recommend people start to tap into their intuition? I know that we're constantly inundated with external stimuli and we're just accustomed to being busy, right, and around other people. But what are some ways that people can intentionally start to carve out time or start to build in time in their lifestyle to tap into their intuition?
Yeah, well, there's so many ways, but I often recommend, like, first and foremost, a morning routine. What are the things that you do in the first 5 minutes of your day? This is the question. It's like, literally, what are the things that you do in the first 5 minutes of your day? Do you wake up? Do you check your phone? Do you wake up? Do you like think about all the nonsense of the day before? Do you wake up and you meditate? Do you wake up and you say affirmations? Do you wake up and you go for a run? Do you wake up and have a glass of water? You insert whatever it is that you're actually doing, and then ask yourself a powerful question. Is what I do consistently serving me throughout the day? And that's the moment your intuition's going to speak to you. You ask yourself one powerful question. Is the way that I show up right now, presently, serving me throughout the day? And your intuition's going to be like, no, it's not. Or, yes, do more of that. Instead of 2 minutes, why don't you do 5 minutes? Could be better. Whatever it is, this is the moment that we get to decide, oh, now we've recognized what intuition is. Now we've recognized the conversation in our gut, the conversation in our head, the conversation that's coming up. Is it one that we want to listen to? Is it one that we want to honor? And so for me, I do something called the Miracle Morning, and I'm a huge advocate and a huge fan. It was created by Hal Elrod when he researched what the world's most successful people do. Or attribute their success to. And all of them attributed it to being early risers. And within that, there was like so many different rituals, habits, modalities. Yet the 6 most popular were silence or meditation, affirmations or positive self-talk, visualizations or having some kind of vision for your future or a vision board, exercise or some kind of movement, reading or some kind of learning, and scribing or some kind of journaling. And when I met Hal, right when he had been doing this research, I had just learned to walk again, maybe 6 or 7 weeks before I met him. And he said, I have a challenge for you. I'd like for you to wake up earlier than you normally would and pour into yourself in your first waking moments of your day. And I was like, no, thank you. I'm not a morning person. Absolutely not. Here are 50 different reasons why I'm a no, thank you. And he said something to me so powerful that I'll never forget. He said, what if you changed the way that you showed up to your life and it changed the way you experienced life? And at that point, I had been giving him all of these excuses that were so totally honest. I was like, what if I was throwing up all night? What if I woke up and had a seizure? What if, limiting belief, limiting belief, limiting belief of honest limiting beliefs that were there because they were my past story. And he
Mhm.
just simply said, what if you changed the way you showed up to your life and it changed the way you experienced life? And so the next day, I did what is now known as the miracle morning. I woke up and I meditated for a few minutes. I visualized the success of the day. I visualized myself being strong enough to get out of bed. I affirmed my strength. I did physical therapy. I read a little bit. I journaled a little bit about what I was grateful for. And in my visualization, I very clearly saw that if I did some version of powerful habit stacking, I'd never spend another 24 hours in bed or in a hospital ever again. And that was 13 years ago. I have consistently done 6 minutes or more of what I call the miracle morning every day for the last 13 years. And I've never spent another 24 hours in bed or in a hospital ever since.
Wow.
And I know that it was in that visualization. My intuition was speaking to me. My intuition was saying, if you were to change the way, radically change the way you show up to your own life, instead of, waking up and just struggling, waking up and insert whatever, waking up and being intentional. And, there's a lot of days that I wake up and I've had a lot of challenges. Yet that's the moment that I ask myself, what is it that I need right now that's going to best serve me so that I can serve others? And my
Mhm.
intuition then speaks to me. Oh, you need silence. You need to meditate. Oh, you need extra physical therapy. Oh, you need to, journal a little bit and release what's happening, release whatever is going on. And the answer is different every day. But I allow my intuition to have a leading role in my life. And as a result, I'm guided in all of these beautiful directions that my logical mind would never take me. But
Mhm.
I'm always so grateful to be in those spaces.
Yeah, so beautiful. And it really does highlight just the power of routines, the power of being intentional about our growth and realizing that, we have so much power in completely and radically transforming our reality. It's just that we're just like accustomed to being on this wild goose chase, right? Like we're waiting for the condition in order to provide the emotion that we want, right? But it really works the other way around. Like we have to embody the emotion, embody the feeling, embody the state of being, and then we'll get the condition. And once we get that, once we learn that, once we subscribe to the daily practices every single day, like you talked about, the drinking water and visualization and writing, journaling, all of that, it's those daily practices that direct, that really put us on the trajectory that we want to be on, which is ultimately a growth-based trajectory, one of healing, one of love, one of light. And it does come down to a moment-to-moment practice. And I would have to say, even as many years as I've been into my journey, it's still a moment-to-moment practice. Like the ego is always there. The ego is always there with the little chatter, the limiting beliefs, the doubt, the fears. But now, instead of spending, months, years there, I spend, seconds or maybe minutes, and I'm able to kind of coach myself out of it. So one of the areas I wanted to go next was, you mentioned limiting beliefs a couple times, and I want to go deeper here because I think that this idea of belief, like having belief in yourself, your power, your abilities, what you're doing, your healing, etc., is so incredibly powerful. And I believe that we can do anything in this world if we have that deep-seated belief in ourselves. So let me ask you this question. At the onset of your healing journey, did you really truly believe that you would walk again?
Mm. Oh my, oh my. This is a good question. You know, I did. I did believe that one day my life would be different than it was at that time.
Mhm.
And this actually, you just brought me back to a really interesting moment. The practitioner that my parents brought in to help me learn to walk again, the first day I met him, he said, "I'd like to talk to you alone." I said, "Okay." And he took me aside and he said, "Do you believe that I can help you?" And I just flat out, like within seconds, like, no, absolutely not. And he
I
said,
literally just got chills. Like
yeah, I was
said
like,
that,
no,
literally like head to toe
no,
spiritual chills.
absolutely not, sir. And he said, okay, do you believe that there's anything out there that could help you transform the way that you're experiencing life right now? And I said, yes. And he said, could it be possible that your lack of belief in me and every other therapy, modality, doctor, surgery, shot, that your lack of belief that in those things, could it be possible that your lack of belief hindered their ability to work? And I was like, oh, wow.
Deep.
Like, whoa.
Wasn't expecting that.
Like, okay. And he said, whether you believe that I can help you or not, if you believe that there's something out there that could help you to transform the life that you're currently living, one where you suffer every single day, to one when you're able to live a life worth living, I hope that you can believe that that solution is right around the corner. And I was like, oh, look at you. Okay. And it opened me up to the vulnerabilities of my lack of belief and how that might have played a role in the lack of success that so many modalities, therapies, doctors, etc. had. Mm-hmm. And it helped to invite in personal responsibility for how we show up. It helped to remind me, there's an affirmation: the moment I accept responsibility for everything in my life is the moment I have the power to change everything in my life. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's so powerful because we're often blaming, we're often projecting, we're often, excusifying situations for the reasons that they are the way they are. Yet this gentleman was inviting me to take personal responsibility for my own actions, for my own belief in my ability to heal. And once we finally got down to the root of the situation, I believed that there was something out there that could help me to be my strongest self. Then, like, he immediately shifted gears and said, okay, well, if you believe that, then I believe that I can be a catalyst on you learning to walk again. And, day one, I was not that enthused. Day two, I was also not that enthused. By day 5, I took one step and I didn't feel excruciating pain. And in that one step, I thought to myself, what if tomorrow I took 2 steps and I didn't feel excruciating pain? And it was in that moment that I said, okay, I get this guy. And I get what he was sharing with me, because if I don't take personal responsibility for the conversation and the limiting beliefs that I'm projecting, then I will always get the result that I'm projecting, which is nothing will ever work because nothing ever worked. So I will always suffer because I've suffered my entire existence. Mm-hmm. And the moment I released that and said, I no longer accept that narrative, I now accept the narrative that there are always things that are out there that will help me to heal myself naturally. And it's my obligation to find them. And I will find them because they're right around the corner. And then solutions just magically appeared. And, now it's been over a decade that I can almost always walk. Like, I've probably used a wheelchair 40 times in the last 10 years, which is very few. Mm-hmm. A lot of days in the last 10 years. And it just reminds me that it's our own belief and it's the personal responsibility that we take for our own life that invites in possibilities that we didn't see before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Such a beautiful story. And because I kind of, as I was tapping in your energy as we were talking, I just was feeling pulled to draw this story out of you, because I just felt like the shift in belief, right? Really accepting and embodying the belief was the pivotal moment in your journey. And I'd like to highlight, and I'm assuming you would agree with me here, that anyone can do this in their own life, right? You just have to shift the belief. You have to embody it from the inside out. You have to do the work, and like you said, every day, just keep doing the work and trust the process, and keep putting one foot in front of the other, and just have patience and persistence, and just keep going. And it's amazing where our journey takes us when we just keep doing the work, and stop looking back and evaluating and comparing ourselves again to where we thought we would be. Just keep going, because every step forward is yet another step closer to where you want to be.
You are absolutely right. And one of the things that you just mentioned really sparked for me David Hawkins' work. Are you familiar with his chart of consciousness?
No, I'm
Oh
not.
my gosh, we're gonna have the best offline conversation. But I'm gonna briefly
I'm
I'm
in.
gonna briefly mention to everyone that there's a gentleman named David Hawkins, and he wrote a book called Power versus Force. And you could just, as you're listening to this, you could literally just Google it, and there's a chart, Power versus Force chart, and it literally shows the different states of consciousness and our frequency and energy that we give off depending upon the different states that we're in. And so it's fascinating to see that when we are shameful, the frequency that we're giving off is a 20. Yet when we're courageous, the frequency that we're giving off is a 200. And so it's so important for us to recognize wherever we are is perfect, but to not look back as we compare ourselves to who we used to be and sit in a shame storm. Do not allow for the experiences that we've had to hold us into a certain space. So shame, guilt, apathy, fear, grief, all of these are lower states of consciousness. And courage is the turning point towards a higher state of consciousness. And that's when you're giving off the energy of the frequency of 200. And so I will read them. Pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame, they're all lower states of consciousness. And so when we look back or look forward, if we look back or look forward through the lens of shame, then we're not going to be courageous enough to put one foot in front of the other in a meaningful way, because we have this lingering uncomfortableness that we're inviting into the new space of possibilities. And so when I mentioned the miracle morning, what's so fascinating about a morning routine, what's so fascinating about a new start every single day, the possibility of putting one foot in front of the other, it's courageous when we got knocked down yesterday to pick ourselves back up today. And it's completely different if we got knocked down yesterday and today we stay in a shame storm because someone knocked us down and we let them. And so the energy that we give off each and every day is so important. The emotions that we assign to the circumstances that we experience are so important, because when we stay in a higher state of consciousness, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment, all of these not only invite in these higher states of consciousness for ourselves, for our future, but they invite this higher state of consciousness for everybody around us. Yeah. Another affirmation that I use is the greatest gift I can give to others is simply to fulfill my potential so that I can show others how to fulfill theirs. I don't need to teach or preach or coach or anything. When I show up, when people see me, this happens. Like just the other day, I was like at a thing and I got violently sick, and I couldn't hide it. And then I picked myself back up. 10 minutes later, I was fine. And that was that. And people were like, wow, I knew you 10 years ago and that would have taken you out all day. I was like, yeah, but I'm not who I was 10 years ago. I'm not who I was 20 years ago. And I'm no longer going to allow who I was to stop me from putting one foot in front of the other today in this new space where I believe in myself and I know that circumstances are just circumstances. And many years ago, if I had gotten ill in public, I would have immediately been really, really ashamed and really uncomfortable and like, fearful? What are they going to think? And like, oh no, and now I just Except that part of my authentic self is that I have situations where I get knocked down and then I pick myself back up.
Hmm. I love that. And I love that you so intentionally, again, that word intentional, intentionally choose your state of being. And this is something we all have the privilege of doing, the responsibility to do in every single moment, right? So, do I want to, regardless of what's going on around you, regardless of your external circumstances, regardless of your situation, regardless of what other people are saying or doing, you still get to choose to be on that high flying disc. You still get to choose peace. You still get to choose to live in the light of, in the vibration of love. You still get to choose that. And so, I always say, don't give that power to anyone else. Don't allow someone else to dictate your state of consciousness. Don't allow someone else to dictate your vibrational state. You get to choose that every single moment. And it's a moment to moment practice, really, of training the mind. You talked about the mindset earlier. It's a moment to moment practice of, how does this help me move forward? How does this serve me? How does this allow me to connect to my highest self? It's a moment to moment practice of having that higher, more evolved dialogue that helps to move us forward and keep us out of those lower vibrational states. So I could
Absolutely.
sit here and talk with you all day. We're going to unfortunately have to wrap up. I've got another podcast stacked up right after this, but wanted to just give you the floor for a couple more minutes to really, just open it up, give you carte blanche to go really any direction you want here. If you want to talk more specifically about the work that you do, I would love to have you share your contact information too, and just any words of wisdom that you would like to end on. I would so appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been such a pleasure, Pam. And I love that we navigated into this higher state of consciousness, lower state of consciousness conversation, because the first time that somebody said to me, do you know that the way that you show up has a frequency and has an emotion and has a life view attached to it? When we are courageous, we think that things are feasible. When we are sitting in a space of shame, we think that things are miserable. And
Mhm.
so it really opened my eyes to the power that we either have or that we give away each and every day. And so, people can find me on Clubhouse. I host a room each and every day called the Miracle Morning Mindset and Motivation, where we have an affirmation every day, we have a journaling prompt every day, and we're unpacking what does it look like to show up as your most courageous self each and every day. And it's so important for people who are on a journey of transformation to be in association with others who are on a journey of transformation, because the times where we got knocked over, the times when things are difficult, it's easy to put one foot in front of the other when life is good. It's very difficult to put one foot in front of the other when you're consistently knocked down and there's all these unforeseen challenges. But that's what life is about. Life is about all kinds of unforeseen challenges. And so when we have people around us, a circle of influence of other growth-minded, like-hearted, authentic, vulnerable, courageous leaders, what happens is it invites us to be our most authentic, vulnerable, and courageous self each and every day, not just when it's easy. And so you can find me on Clubhouse, The Miracle Morning, Mindset and Motivation. I also have a positive affirmations coloring book that teaches families how to create structured morning routines. It's called The Miracle Morning, Art of Affirmations. And it's a beautiful opportunity for individuals or families to elevate their environment, which is so fascinating because I never really when I was younger, I didn't notice the power of our environment and how the things that we look at dictate our mindset. And so when I learned about neuroplasticity and creating new neural pathways, I learned that we need to say or read something 10,000 times in order to create a new neural pathway. And so even if you have a morning practice where you say, I believe in my potential, not in my past, every morning, you do it for a year, that's only 365 times. But if you have, I believe in my potential, not in my past, on your mirror, every single time you wash your hands, every time you brush your teeth, you're going to see that. And when you see that, you're going to ask yourself powerful questions like, what is it about my potential that I believe in? And what do I need to let go of from my past in order to step into this potential? And it's when we ask ourselves these powerful questions based on conversations in our head, based on really powerful language that we're using, that we're able to radically transform our lives. And so I'm just going to leave it with that. I absolutely love that you are such an authentic and intentional leader, and that you courageously hold space for people to transform their lives. It's beautiful. And I hope that everybody who's listening is able to recognize that everything is right about them. Everything is right about you. Everything is right about me. And everything is right about every experience that we have, if we only search for the meaning that will invite growth and expansiveness.
So beautiful. Thank you. You're such a beautiful soul with just a beautiful story of transformation. And thank you so much for everything that you do to share your love and light and healing energy with the world. And I would like to also thank our viewers and listeners. I believe that time is a choice, and I'm grateful that you've carved time out today to listen to Brianna's wonderful story that she shared with us today. So thank you, everyone, and have an amazing day. Bye.